Welcome back to another SMITE patch notes video, and in this one we're going over Ruler of the Heavens, which has the new god Olorun. This is a pretty average sized patch, but most everything is balances with items and gods, and obviously the new god, so not a whole patch just filled with cosmetics and everything. So we'll start with the new god first, Olorun. He is an attack speed mage. He joins Sol and Kronos as the only two, right? Yeah, there's no other ones. His passive is called Touch of Fate. Upon reaching 150 magic power from his items, he gains 15% crit chance and further 1% for every other 10 additional magic power from your items. So once you're at 150 magical power, you'll have a 15% chance to crit. Once you get to 160, it'll be 16%, 170 is 17%, so on and so forth, and you cap out at a max of 70%. Now, he only gains this from his items, though. So, like, I remember them using an example. Which god did they use? If, like, Fafnir gives you an attack speed buff from his ability, that won't count towards, you know, your passive. Now, they did mention if you were to get buff camps and stuff like that, that would help. So, I guess just other god abilities don't go into the passive. His first ability is called Focused Light. He charges an orb of pure energy for up to 2 seconds before firing it in front of him. The longer he charges it, the farther that it goes, passing through and damaging enemy minions, but stopping and colliding on God. So it's basically his lane clear and you just charge it up. This ability can critically hit and he can provide stacks of overflowing divinity. Before I forget, I do want to say this real quick. His 2 can get an increased range on it while inside of his ult. I'll explain what his ult does later, but just remember that if you have your ult up and you cast his 2, it can go practically the whole map. It looks like a Mercury ult. It's just insane. So it's going to do 100 to 260 damage and scale, plus 55% of your magical power. Has a 50 to 90 cost, as well as a 12-second cooldown. His second ability, Overflowing Divinity. He gains an amplified attack speed. So this basically just boosts his attack speed. I don't even know how to describe what else it does. I just gotta basically read it. Every successful attack on an enemy during the buff provides his inner sun with energy to cap of 20 stacks. So while you hit your 2 and you're gonna gain attack speed, you get 40% increased attack speed. And right above your little character is going to be this new kind of passive meter. It's just like a giant circle. Every time you hit a basic attack, that circle fills up and it can fill up to a maximum of 20 times. During the buff, or for 4 seconds after the buff, you can refire the ability to conjure the sun and damage enemies in the area. So refiring it basically takes up all the stacks that you've accumulated and just fires them at the enemies, and it's basically just like a ball of sun that just crash, 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 up to 20 times, just constant balls of sun coming down on them. So your 2 is kind of 2 parts. First, it's just an attack speed stim, and then it can do damage after once you refire it. The sun emits projectiles faster and more randomly with higher ammo. Hitting the same enemy deals 10% less damage each time to a minimum of an 80% reduction. So it's going to do 30 to 70 damage plus 10% of your magic power. Like I said, 40% increased attack speed, 4 to 6 seconds, and it's going to cost you 60 to 80 with a 14-second cooldown. His third ability, Consecration. Olorun expends the light within himself, knocking back and damaging nearby enemies, as well as slowing them for 2 seconds. Allies bathed in the light gain a heal over time that ticks every second for 5 seconds. For every ally healed, Olorun gains physical and magical protections. Think of this ability as Aphrodite's back off. It looks almost identical to that, and it kind of works like that because it does knock them back. However, it also slows them. It'll slow them for 25%. Now, if you hit an ally rather than an enemy, it's going to heal them. They'll get 10 to 30 heals per tick, plus 5% of the magical power, depending on the level. And then you'll also get protections. So you'll get either 8 scaling to 16 protections, both physical and magical, and that's per god allied healed. So if you're smart and you're like, hey, all of my teammates, come here, you heal 4 of them, you're going to get the 8 to 16 protections 4 different times. And like I said, the slow on enemies, it's going to cost 60 to 80 with a 14-second cooldown. So he's an attack speed mage, or a basic attack mage, that has some high burst potential with his 2, can heal allies, has a knockback CC, and the CC for his ult is just insane, and we'll get into that right now. So Sanctified Field. Olorun brings forth Oldumare and Olofi, I probably butchered those names, I'm sorry, who travel outwards, creating a large area of divine energy that distorts the flow of time within. All enemies caught in this area are negatively affected by the time dilation, attacking, casting, and even animating more slowly. So basically, anyone in this field is in slow motion. Everything, like if Odin swings his 3, it's going to be in slow motion. If Odin jumps, it's going to be in slow motion. I was watching Incon's video on this, and he brought up Nike. Imagine Nike trying to jump in this. He said she ain't coming out for like 2 years, and he's probably right. So it's basically a 40% slow, and then you also get a self buff being 30% faster. So it's just a pain in the ass for enemies, essentially. Olorun himself benefits from the Sanctified Field in a similar way. The strength of the Divine Field also impacts the effect of buffs, debuffs, projectiles, and deployables. So that goes hand in hand with the 2. The 2, it just increases the range exponentially on it. It's insane. So you're going to get the 40% debuff on them, 30% buff on you. It's going to last for 5 seconds. It does cost 100, and it has a cooldown of 140 all the way down to 100. So it is a long cooldown. It doesn't do anything other than the slowing and increasing speed, but man, it slows you immensely. And it's not just movement speed, it's everything. Your abilities cast slower. It's just so weird to actually watch in action. And there is his recolor. What's the difference? Oh, the gold. Okay. So, next up we have the new god skins. First we have a Tiger's Fury Achilles.
Yes. Soon the air will be thick with the smell of sweet blood.
And then Death Lotus Dodgy.
I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to stay out of trouble. Shh. Don't tell the other shinobi.
So both of those will be available in the Battle for Olympus, and then in the Biohacker chest, we have Biohacker Kali.
Gaze upon my form, and welcome the next step of evolution.
Doesn't Kali already have like a skin like this? Or no? No, she doesn't. I'm thinking of someone else. Or am I not? I don't know. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Biohacker Chernobog, so we have 2 biohackers coming.
It's only natural you feel a cold sweat drip down your back. You are in the presence of a superior species.
And then these next 2 here will be in the 6th Battle for Olympus. First one we have is Clockwork Chaos Discordia. I think that's the 2nd Clockwork skin. I know. Ao Kuang. Ao Kuang has a Clockwork skin
Thanks for
too.
bringing me on this adventure. I promise I won't let you guys down. I have gadgets for any situation.
There might honestly be some others, but I don't think there is. I think Ao Kuang's the only one. And then we have Mothman AMC, and this just looks awesome. This seems like one of those, like, ideas for skin. Like, how does he not have a moth skin by now? But he does now.
Now what's a poor thing like you doing in my neck of the woods?
That voice pack is amazing. I can't wait to see that in game, or hear that in game. Vigilante Susano. This is interesting.
The streets are never safe these days. Someone's got to protect it.
The player card looks cool with the mask, but looking at his clothes, I'm kind of afraid he's going to be one of those plain, like, street skins. Like, Mercury has one where he's just kind of in street clothes, and there's not a whole lot to him, and I got a bad feeling it's going to be like that. And then we have Olorun's Mastery skins, and then Plushie Jormungandr. I think that's the 3rd plushie skin. I know Ganesh has one, and someone else.
Do not be scared. I am a
Capri.
great big softie.
So they're giving it to all the Guardians pretty much, but it kind of makes sense. It's that contradiction of big bad buff Guardians are now just plushy figures. So June 25th, Olorun, we have the Battle for Olympus number 5 with the Rightful Heir chest. And then June 28th, we have the Plushy Friends chest, which I'm guessing you'll be able to get this in. The first week of July is going to be the Biohacker chest, where you can get the Biohacker skins. Second week will be the Battle for Olympus 6 chest, which you can get these 2. And then the third week is the Vigilante chest. So for the bug fixes, I'm not going to read these in detail. If you want to pause them and look at them, you can. I'll just leave that right there. And then for Project Olympus, the match lobby animation and color match lobby animations and color change card art. So for the console lobby communication, console players will now be able to access a unique set of text-only VGS commands in the console lobby to communicate with each other. They can also access a custom message through this VGS menu in the same way console players can chat without each other in-game. Friends list now has a decline all button on their requests section. All pending friend requests will be wiped when the Ruler of the Heavens God update goes. Whoa, wait. All pending friend requests will be wiped when this update goes live. So if you have any pending friend requests, I would go ahead and accept them or decline them now, because they're just going to be deleted before when this update goes live. Matchmaking. Significant changes have been made to the matchmaking in relation to crossplay. So players will now be much more likely to only match with players on their own input type unless you are queuing in a crossplay party or significantly low population region. Crossplay parties will match with the input type that the majority of the party is using. So if you have 4 people in Xbox and 1 in PC, it's going to Xbox. If the KBM and gamepad players is tied, then it goes to the KBM, which is keyboard and mouse. Home screen updated the UI and art to remove the flames highlighting on the text selections and replace it with something sleeker. So for God balance, or no, these are just God. Are these the balances or bug fixes? I guess these are balances. For the universal ring toss on Naja, fixed an issue where the ring would not bounce from certain targets. Fixed an issue. This ability. Okay, so his armor. I can never say that word. This ability now applies a stun with no diminishing returns. This means that it should always last the same amount of time, fixing situations where Naja could use it and target could move out of the way. Okay, I've had that. We've all had that happen. If you've played Naja a significant amount of time, you have had it happen where you go in, you try to do your 3-4 combo, and they just move at the last second, and you waste your ult. It's happened to everyone, don't lie. This is consistent with specific other stun effects that have scripted animation time, like Sobek's Charge Prey. Fixed an issue with this ability. We're using this ability on gods who were in the process of being knocked up would also cause Naja to be in the air on reaching that target. Now Naja will reach the target and deal damage while stunned on the ground. Fixed an issue where the area of effect damage of this ability will sometimes miss targets that are in the air but within the hit area. So a lot of bug fixes coming to his sash. You can go ahead and read those right there. These are just more fixes. Added a new FX to the ability to clearly portray the area of effective damage when Naja reaches a target, so that is something new. Wind Fire Wheels adjusted the bounding area of the UI elements so that they will no longer have the chance to be hidden behind Naja's passive meter, and then some more issue fixes with that. Scylla gets an updated ability icon art. So for the item changes, Odysseus Bow gets a decreased base damage from 30 to 15, so that is cut in half. Charge Bow gets a decrease from 20 to 15. Malice gets a decreased cost from 3,000 to 2,650, and also gets a cooldown reduction from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. Doom Orb gets a a decreased cost from 3,200 to 3,000. Rod of Asclepius. I think that's the first time I've called it Rod of Asclepius in my entire life, actually. I've always called it Rod of Asclepius. Updated description to better convey this item, only affecting healing abilities. The functionality of this item has not been changed. Gem of ISO decreased the movement speed slow from 25% to 20% and decreased the movement speed slow duration from 2 seconds to 1 second, so a pretty nice nerf to Gem of ISO. Achilles, their protections level are increased on his Gift of Gods, used to be 1.5, is now 2. Shield of Achilles gets an increased fall-off damage from 70% to 85%. Ao Kuang fixed text on his final swing. It's a full 1 second, just has a short pre-fire. Dragon Call decreased the slow on ranged attacks from 30% to 20%, and his Wildstorm gets an increased cooldown from 7 seconds to 9 seconds. Athena's Shield Wall gets an increased initial damage, used to be 60 to 200, is now 70 to 230, but also gets a decreased explosion damage, which used to be 80 to 360, is now 70 to 330, so kind of just a balance there. Preemptive Strike gets a slow duration increase, used to be 1.25 to 2.25, is just now a flat 2.25 at all ranks, which is a phenomenal buff, actually. Cerberus Soul Expulsion decreased the health of Soul from 95 to 235, is now 60 to 220. Increased the health per god from 30 to 110, is now 40 to 140, so again, kind of a balance there. Stygian Torment decreased the cooldown, used to be 115 to 95, is just now 100 at all ranks. And then Cucullin increased the scaling on his Barbed Spear from 45% to 55%. Freya has an issue fixed where she was healing with this ability more than intended on her Northern Lights. Hubwa gets a damage decrease on his water cannon, used to be 70 to 290, is now 70 to 270. It's still gonna kill you. Atlas of the Yellow River decreased movement speed and slow, used to be 30 to 50% slow, is now a 25 to 45% slow. For Horus, he gets a decreased cooldown on his updraft, used to scale from 18 to 14 seconds, is now 16 to 14. Jormungandr gets a decreased bonus damage on his Consuming Bellow, used to scale from 20 to 60, is now 20 to 40, a little bit less late game. Khepri getting changes all around. He gets an increased damage per tick from 10 to 22, is now 10 to 26 on his Rising Dawn. Solar Flare decreased the cooldown by 2 seconds, and Scarab's Blessing updated the ability text to state that it does not revive executed targets. Set gets an increased duration on his Relentless, used to be 4 seconds, is now 5 seconds, and fixed a description error on it. Kingslayer gets a decreased pre-fire time from 0.8 to 0.33 seconds. And finally, Emir gets a reduced cooldown on his Frost Breath, used to be 18 seconds, is now 16 seconds. This symbol indicates a change or feature implemented based on feedback and discussion with the Olympians. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to scroll through and look for that to see if they're... Okay, they're right there. So Cucullin gets a little change based on community feedback, and so does the Gem of Iso. I think that's cool that they're, like, pointing out, you know, that they're actually listening. We have 2 right here, but at the same time, it's a little bit like... I don't want to say pandering. Pandering is not the right word, but a little bit less version of pandering. That is it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like and hit subscribe for more content. I will be jumping on PTS after I upload this video to do all of the skins as well as the new god Olorun, so be on the lookout for that, and thank you for watching.